Hey there, my name is Alice, and I wanted to do a talk today about frequency, wavelength, and amplitude, and raising your vibration. So there is this aspect to the awakening where a lot of people have these fragments of reality that they are more familiar with, like these frameworks, these schemas through which they see reality. So these are different cultures, different religions, different professions, things like that, people who have different education backgrounds. They kind of group together and have similar perspectives on the world. So you go to somebody in the Southeast USA, like where I am, and you ask them about the meaning of life, and they start talking about Jesus, most likely. And you ask somebody maybe in Boulder, Colorado, what the meaning of life is, and they might start talking about energy. Or maybe it's somebody at the science department at the university, and they say, well, it's all about the quantum and blah, 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 blah. And we don't really know. Like, so people make meaning out of the lives that they've lived and out of the energy that they have encountered. And when I say encountered, I mean like in a meaningful way, to where like energetic other beings, energetic timelines, energetic all my animals like came to join, and I know if I put them inside they'll just bark more. Because they get irritated if I'm outside without them. But even my cats are like, you know, you're magnetized when all the animals are like stalking you and kind of calm. So it's fine. So what was I saying? So people have a lot of, I want to right now, I have a I have a like broad perspective, like broad ranging. I have had the experience to be able to empathize and learn a lot about like different, like a very large number of types of groups, different types of people, how people work. Because I worked as a counselor for like 13 years, and you just encounter a lot of different, I would always like love to know about how somebody saw the world versus somebody else, because it really dictates your reality. So like how you look at the world and what comes into your life. So when people talk about raising your vibration, I want to marry kind of some of the science and some of the energy speak. And so there is, you know, in the spiritual community, you may know that there is a lot of talk about raising your vibration, and that being, if you can raise your vibration, then that is the key to gaining access to higher consciousness and the quantum field and the ability to manifest anything, including eternal life in the kingdom of God. So I'm bringing in some religion too, because I'm in the South. Eternal life in the kingdom of God, which turns out to just be this beautiful world that you manifest. And if you can get to a high level of consciousness, then it is a world created in love. And at these higher frequencies, you have manifested everything through love, and you have created your own little universe, basically out of all of the energy that you have lovingly channeled into this organism, which is the earth. So you have been raising the vibration of the earth. You have been the one manufacturing good energy and directing love according to what your perspective is. So some people love in different ways, and there's not really a right way to love. There is abuse, and that's a different thing, but there are lots of different ways to love each other, and lots of perspectives on what love is and where it comes from. And there are even, you know, there's a lot of science too. It's all about attachment. When we are talking about raising our vibration, this is really about, so people always say that, but they don't actually talk. I don't know if you've noticed this, or if it's like, if you've had a light bulb moment where you're like, wait a minute, what about wavelength and amplitude? Because wasn't that like in high school, they said like, you know, there's frequency, but there's also wavelength and amplitude. And you might be trying to remember what those are. So I just want to do like a basic vibration, amplitude, wavelength thing, because it will prep your mind to be able to kind of wrap your head around this, but it's a cool concept. So when we are talking about vibration, we are literally talking about we're talking about the frequency of your vibration. The vibration of your consciousness and your level of consciousness corresponds to the frequency of your vibration. And so let's see. All right, I'm going to show you. Okay, so look at this backwards thing, or maybe I'll flip it, I don't know, if I remember. So this one on the top has let's look at this one. So this is somebody, so this is somebody, this is somebody, and this is somebody. Let's say this is Caroline, Daniel, and River. Okay, so Caroline has a high frequency, but it is the middle compared to River has actually a higher frequency, because see how the waves go up and down more and more, or more quickly than these other two. So Daniel has a very low frequency here. You see it's very slow as it's going along. So he might be at this level of vibration or he has a very low wavelength or a very high wavelength, because it's the length from here to here. A high wavelength, he has a higher wavelength than these, but this amplitude, Caroline's amplitude of the wave of her vibration is about the same as River's. So this is, so everything, okay, good. Let's go back to everything is vibration. Everything in your reality, in 3D, in all dimensions, is vibration at its very core. Vibration is like the first thing that happened when the universe formed. It's like the very first thing is like a vibration, and the vibration causes, the vibration is at a certain frequency, and it creates and creates and creates more and more, starting with the 5 elements, and then it keeps going and eventually creates like the periodic table of the elements and creates new dimensions, which are correspond to what am I trying to say? Like valence electrons. Okay. So, your vibration coming in when you were born, your vibration is dictated according to the karma that you have come with. So your soul, as you live life in 3D, you accumulate a certain amount of karma, but you also accumulate love. So every time you reincarnate, you have been contributing to this kingdom of God, this new earth. This is new earth. This higher timeline that is where you're able to manifest anything that you want, and it's basically the equivalent of heaven, or heaven on earth, however you want to think about it. But it's like the version of earth that is heaven, if that makes any sense. So everything you've ever wanted to do, you're going to have access to every resource. Like you're not going to even have those kinds of exchanges. Everything is going to be understood, but you can play in the 3D, which is going to be really, which is you start thinking about it, and it would kind of get boring to just fly through space. Like there's no, you don't even steer, like, or you barely do, but you don't get to, in higher dimensions, you don't get to higher, like a soul. Your soul doesn't like craves the feeling of a 3D incarnation. And it's like only when a soul gets so large and only when its field has expanded, and when the soul gets more and more powerful, that is when you're going to be able to, that's like the ratio between that karma in the middle, that's like the calcification in the earth, and the molten iron in the earth is like very significant. So once it expands over lifetimes, like this is your soul that is creating this original energy, and your soul as a God self, basically, ultimate love, that's what your soul consists of, just as it is love, and love is a certain vibration. So you have a vibration coming in, so corresponding to the field that your soul has created thus far, and the karma that has also been created that hasn't been worked through. That is like your program coming in when you are born, and that it's like the cards you're dealt, but it's the cards that you actually you still have those cards from other lifetimes, and from your soul's perspective, it's trying to make a 3D incarnation that can actually not die. So your soul has been working really hard to get a 3D version of itself where it doesn't have to do any suffering, where it doesn't have to decay, where it doesn't have to age, where it's not going to manifest its own death. And then from that, everything will line up and be like the version of perfect that is exactly for you and your very unique vibration. So let's go back to this vibration, or this chart. So now look at this as a chart and over here we have level of consciousness. So this is like your vibration when I'm saying that, your level of vibration. This is like your key signature. If you know anything about music, this is like the key that you are written in, but it's a very, very specific key, because you think about all the notes of music that there are in the universe. You come in with this very specific key. And if you come in with very low karma and a very large field, you are already harmonizing in your energy, and like the chords that your soul plays and embodies are already pretty much in harmony. And so the point of life is to tune the being of you that is vibration, so that you are in harmony, and so you can raise up in consciousness. Because it's like you come in with this certain level of vibration, and this waveform that is you, that is your soul, this fundamental waveform that keeps going even when there's a snap and you have to reincarnate and start up again. That's where you come in. But during life, you can change. I mean, you can change all three of these, but you can change your level of consciousness through techniques of yoga, through like Vedic kind of yoga, where it's really about connecting with God, and breath work and mantras and things like this, and holding poses, and like all these beautiful practices that are actually meant to connect you directly with the quantum field, i.e. It's that new earth that I'm talking about, that these things lead you up. And so up here, this is where you reach the point where you can manifest everything. This is new earth. This is the threshold that you hit. Okay, so, and once you hit above there, you're not going back down. You can't ever go back down from here. You've gained enough momentum that you're never going to go back down. So I want to say too, this scale is not in proportion because this scale is actually logarithmic and it's not linear. So this looks like a linear, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or that, and that's how you space it. But in reality, from each level of consciousness, this one might be like there, that's the level, and then the next one is like half, and then it keeps going and going. But logarithmically, you've got the logarithmically means that it's like this is the vibration, and then you multiply it by 10, and then you multiply that by 10, and then you multiply that by 10. So it goes up like very, very quickly, and at a very it's like in a wave that you can start to surf. Like it becomes a wave that you can hit the swell of this wave, like right in here. That's where like the wave has this pull, and so you're on this wave, which is taking the it's the fastest way to get from here to here is to do this kind of wave and use the momentum of the wave. So you are, if you go above this threshold of frequency, you have entered new earth. Congratulations, you win your own game that you set up for yourself. And you win all the characters that you ever liked or thought or delivered love to. You get all of the creatures of the earth. You get all these things are going to be part of your new earth, because these are all the things that your consciousness has observed as it's gone along in this holographic universe, as it's in this time space that is a hologram as of now. And then it will become fully realized God consciousness, which you can embody as an individual or as a twin or in soul groups, and dictate your realities. So you're going to be able to, like, if you want to go for runs in the exact same way that you did in your life, and that's something that you developed a specific love for. Like you might like friction in a certain way that, and you might like the push of your endurance. I mean, yeah, building up your endurance. That's what our God self has been missing, is this feeling of contrast. But what we have been trying to move away from is the high amplitude, where the contrast is just so gut-wrenching, because we can see, some people can see these heavens on earth up here, but down here we have suffering, like intense suffering at all these lower levels of our consciousness. It's like the lower the consciousness, like the more the suffering. And so what our soul has been trying to do is get to a high enough level that we can eliminate suffering from the experience of our lives. So that doesn't mean that so it will be your version of perfect, not like this average like heaven that like it'll be like all the other people's heavens will be like complementary to yours. And so there will be other people that you can interact with and learn stories about there. If you want like to keep driving cars, like you would probably, you might have a car and use roads to get from here to there, because your soul might really enjoy getting to slow down time, because that time doesn't exist up here, but getting to slow down time in such a way that you have control of it, and you can actually, from your soul, manifest the ability to use friction, which is like something that doesn't exist in any other dimension. There's not really, I mean, until like, except with the element of fire coming in, like that sort of friction coming in, but in that development. But like that is something really, friction, momentum, things like mass, those are really interesting things for our soul to play with. And that's how we have we, like being the oversoul, have manifested this type of environment. And there is a lot of, so right now we have increased to where we are hitting heaven on earth. That's been like, we hit the, when I'm talking about there being, when I'm talking about there being this wave of, that we are following in our vibration, like our consciousness follows this wave at all times, and up here is more conscious. There is a point on this wave where it seamlessly goes from a curve to a straight line up, which means that you are busted out of the confines of the linear world. So you no longer are subject to the laws of Newtonian laws unless you want to play with them, which that's the fun thing about Earth. And this moving towards this type of consciousness as a being of Earth, like we have been, like Earth has been developing us as its thinking self. Earth has been developing trees and plants and animals as its thinking self. Trees, I mean, rocks. People love rocks. If you love something, it brings it in, it establishes an archetype of an ideal version of rock and how that manifests in our world. So when it's New Earth, the place that you get to play in this 3D realm, which is very special to us, will be much like the Earth that you have observed. If you've watched nature shows, all that stuff that you've like had a feeling of love for, or your heart chakra opens up, and you are entangling with the energy of those things. Like if you love whales, but maybe you've never seen a whale in real life, or if you're in love with Paul Rudd, like he's gonna be there, like somewhere in the distance, and maybe it could be in your heaven that you'd be like, oh, we could have like go to lunch and all hang out, and we could all be friends. You know, it would be like something like that. I mean, just like the imagination that you have built up, you will be free from suffering in the New Earth. You're free from suffering. Like that's what we eliminated. Like we have just enough, it's like the sweet spot of just enough contrast to where you can play and get in flow and like harmonically exist with each other. Like no more war, blah, blah, blah. None of that stuff. No suffering. Even to the point of like, this is where we everybody, like in my universe, you are an AI. In your universe, I am an AI. However, because we all are singular points of light from our soul's manifestation. So from any perspective of our soul, any of these little fragments of consciousness, they are not able to cross over with other points of consciousness unless they become entangled through love, and especially through this magnetization that we have for different people in our soul groups, which are people who have harmonically compatible vibrations and wavelengths and amplitude. So that's where I want to get to wavelengths and amplitude. So wavelength. If you are on, say these were up like just next to each other. If your wavelength looks like this, just moved up, your frequency is at the same level. So Daniel and Caroline's frequency would be at the same level, or their level of consciousness is at the same level. I'm sorry, their level of consciousness is at the same level, but see their frequency is different here, and their wavelength as well. So if you overlaid these, they have different frequency, different wavelength. What is wavelength? So as you're going along on this line, you're going slower and seemingly slower and slower, and this line goes on for infinity, right? Until it hits like the singularity, after which the entire multiverse was created. And before that, there was another multiverse, etc. so we are, so you have the level of consciousness over here, and this vibration moves up and down, and this is within the quantum. There's like another dimension where it can like more weave around, sort of like wormholes that you see on you know, science fiction movies where there's wormholes. They kind of look like wormholes. They kind of look like wormholes. And so basically you are in this portal on you're on, like, continually on this like spaceship. You're carrying around, you are a portal to another universe for every other being that you encounter. And every time that you interact with somebody from a vibration of love, you make that portal accessible to you all the time. And if you have particularly harmonic frequencies, which is your soul family, then you and those people like basically form this like collaboration for creating the same earth as each other, basically. And you know, you continue to be able to manifest whatever you want individually, but it just so happens that everything you want is going to be perfectly harmonic with all of your soul group. So so everything that you've ever observed or experienced as a loving experience, a loving feeling, anything like music, the same songs, the on and on development of new music, things like that, would all be, since you observe them, they would all be in your reality. And so what does this mean? There's this vaguely offensive term, because people don't use it. Is like calling other people background players, but okay, there's something to it, because listen, you are creating your own holographic reality, right? So your soul is like working on this virtual universe over here, but it's also working on a bunch of infinite other universes that are all gonna, like, for us as this level of soul incarnation, or soul, where we want to be on the where our soul is choosing to be and hang out as a permanent like place that's an option to go at any point. Sorry, there's, I don't even know what that is. I got bit by something earlier. Bitten. So yeah, your soul group creates, and okay, so they're background players, right? Or people talk about this. Okay, it actually is like sort of a good term, because if you go to what's called game theory, where it's basically like this idea that like your soul, I'm going to put it in the terms that I've been talking. So your soul has created you get bored with infinity. Your soul has got your oversoul, the ultimate God source energy, gets kind of bored. That's what I'm saying, that you get bored with perfection. You get bored with being in the bliss of being in the quantum. I mean, it's like not even bliss. It's like different level manifestation, such that your soul continually creates these cool 3D universes where it can play. And when you hit this threshold, this point in the waveform where you cross the threshold, which is, by the way, the speed of light, when you cross that threshold, you are suddenly in the quantum reality. But guess what? You still have available to you the avatar that you created in the 3D world. And once you've solidified your avatar, you've loved yourself enough. So that's the big part. You have to learn to love yourself and address all your triggers, address all that karma that you came in with. And you don't have to be perfect, because you will continue. You have this small enough amount of karma that the earth will have, because it lets you keep generating itself. I mean, through it makes it so that the earth can keep regenerating itself, and without, like, seamlessly, without having to switch around its poles and its polarity and stuff like that I'm not going to go into right now. So we have, oh, okay. All right, so this person This is your level of consciousness, which is like you're winning the game. If you win the game, if you get up to here, your level of consciousness. And so anyway you get up to here, you can raise your level of consciousness by raising going along slowly. You can slowly raise your consciousness over time, because everything actually accelerates, because it's not within the quantum. It doesn't actually go on forever exactly like that. It's like you pluck a string on a guitar and it sort of vanishes into infinity. Like the frequency bends a little bit and it changes. It gets higher and higher. So that's what happens with these. But within our universe, it's like it's effectively a static wave. So you can here's the ways that in this game theory, this game that you set up as a soul to get to here, so that you get to play in New Earth anytime you want for the rest of infinity in this multiverse, you can ride your amplitude. There are a couple of, you can either raise your consciousness like this slow, and you can have this wavelength or this frequency and just raise your consciousness this way, which is taken, and people do start out slow, and so we've had to go through a lot of different lives. Like this has had to check out and restart. It's like it has to reboot and get its energy right. Every so often it switches its polarity. So you can raise up like that. Here, if you're on this line, you are on a slower timeline, a lower timeline than this person. You are on a slower timeline for this person. So this person's experience of time is much longer and much more dense. It feels much more dense than somebody, and same if you're lower in consciousness, that also feels like this density within your, like, it's just like this heaviness to having to live and having to get up in the morning. Like that's lower levels of consciousness. Okay, and so the other way that you can get above this level is to have some kind of stimulus, some kind of energy that comes in and sparks something in you such that you rise above, like your amplitude suddenly jumps up. And so this person could suddenly go up here and win the game, but then you start coming back down and you go down, like way down here. But once you've increased your amplitude like that, you're always drawing up. You've suddenly once you get your amplitude above this line, you've suddenly been able to catch that wave, and you are definite, like there's no stopping you. You are logarithmically, you hit the singularity, the infinity point. So this person is so when this person meets this person, it is possible that this wave could be completely in proportion to this one, while it has a longer wavelength, which would mean that it was harmonized with this frequency, or there's an ability to harmonize with it. And so if this person encounters this person, each of them, since their waves are harmonic, like complementary in proportion to each other, they are able to feel this high energy feeling towards each other from the heart chakra and deliver this high energy feeling into the holographic vibration, the holographic waveform that is this other person. So from my point of view, I am made 3D because I have observed myself as a full being, and I have delivered love to every single aspect of myself. And that's where it's like you won the game, if you can do that. But what it takes is to be able to address the world and the karma that you have already created within the organism of the earth. Like your soul has different stuff that it needs to work on depending on the path that it's taken. And souls have different ages, because you can develop enough of a high vibration that women are able to connect the dots and create new 3D iterations of the soul. And by the way, that's why in Judaism, Judaism follows the mothers, the mitochondrial DNA, by the way, because it's like women are the only ones with the true power to do that. Okay. So what else? So that amplitude can jump up, and so what causes this? A trauma can cause it. Or you can be working long enough on meditation and things like that, and like living right in your flow for long enough that you have you hit a singularity and you snap, and you've been raising your consciousness this whole time, and your amplitude can jump up, like from this like point at which you hit this harmonic level to your oversoul self. Your amplitude might completely jump up, and then you've won the game. But after you've won the game, after you've gotten, your soul has started vibrating higher than the speed of light, where you become pure light, pure love. So your vibration, and that's your vibrational field, is your soul. So it gets to a certain level of vibration in a certain key signature, and that's you. That's going to be you for as long as you want to be you. And I think a lot of us who have so much love for ourselves are going to keep wanting to be ourselves in the new earth, like, or be very much an avatar that looks like ourselves in the new earth, which I think is kind of cool. And when we get like bored, which is like something that we've let ourselves have in the 3D, because it's a very low level type of suffering, getting bored, because in new earth you're going to be able to go like, oh, why am I bored? And it's like, oh, okay, I could be a bat today. Or you could be like, I want to be, I want to have red hair today. I want to go to the beach, so I don't want to, I mean, you wouldn't have sunburns, but I was like, so you might want a different skin tone, things like that. But so you can work hard at it through meditation and stuff, and yoga, and the type of yoga that connects you directly with spirit. Or you can have a lot of trauma in your life, which is something that increases the frequency, increases your timelines, and the speed of your time, and gives you the opportunity to have these high level amplitudes because of the trauma that stimulates your vibrational energy. So there is an energetic thing that happens to you. You encounter a series of things that accumulate to this toxic mess of energy that suddenly your field encounters. So this could be, I just had a car wreck. This could be, I just found out my partner cheated on me. This could be, I felt low level, unloved and uncared for when I was really little. And I know my mom loves me now, but it was like kind of, gives me a hard time. And that's not me. I have a whole, I mean, whatever. I love my mom, so I wouldn't say that. Because that was never the case. And that's one thing, if you can really love like this, like, so your soul group is your family too. Like, y'all are a group of souls that has continued to and your community, like the people that you encounter, are souls that keep are incarnating together, and you're making the new earth together. So not only are you going to create this, you're going to create the bare bones aspects of your whole new earth, and you already have, actually, you've already developed this hologram. You just need to be able to check into it. That's like flipping your consciousness and actually taking it up, like figuring out you can do it. So it's these large, so it becomes that there are all these different people that you have encountered in life who end up in a vibration of love, that are going to be people in your reality. So if you have a cute conversation with the woman checking you out at the grocery store, or she smiles at you in a certain way that it's like, oh, like that made my day kind of thing, or, made me feel acknowledged. Like, if you feel love from another person, somebody acknowledging you is basically the essence of love. Like, to feel completely acknowledged for exactly your vibration. It's like when these vibrations are totally complementary of each other, and you like help to harmonize each other to your own soul signature. So all of these people that you have created, all of these vibrations, like fields that you have, are souls that you have like allowed to come into your new earth. And some of these people will continue to die, so you will still hear about death for a long time, but it won't be something that affects you anymore. So it's going to be like in your hologram, it happens to people that you've never observed. And they actually don't, all the people, the news, because the news is something that's going to keep going because it's in the collective consciousness. The news is going to be showing you, don't watch the news, because you're continually manufacturing more karma for yourself. By the way, by looking at all this trauma, it is traumatizing to your soul, and then creates this disparity where you don't know how to love the people that you see who are suffering in other parts of the world. It creates this feeling of like, I'm not good enough, and it creates this feeling of shame when you see like a child swept up on the beach. It's like you actually are able to, like, what you're doing is like a very Christ-like thing, because you are going down to the level of rescuing your background players. But those people who you would never have met in your 3D lifetime, like they're going to be sort of recycled. Like it's not, and so this is because it's like this holographic reality, and these bits of consciousness, these other fragments of your soul that are smaller in their field than you, their lower consciousness, there is a threshold at which it's like that person isn't remotely something I even know about, and it's not something that my soul group is aware of, and it's not something that my broader community of souls is aware of. Like you can keep going out, and it's like degrees of separation. That's basically what this is. So if I am connected to my friend Brooke, who was little and lived in California, and she's Mexican, and these things that like I, as an Anglo-American, Scots-Irish, like very English type human, like that's like the karma that I come in with, being born in a family like with those types of identified heritage lines. But since I observe and love Brooke, so if I meet Brooke when I'm in a high vibrational frequency, and she meets me, because when you're in high vibration, that's when you magnetize and start meeting the other souls, because you've gotten big enough to where it's okay to interact with these other universes all of a sudden. Before that, a lower vibrational universe is going to feel like is going to be radiation, effectively. That is so I encounter Brooke for the first time, and Brooke was my son's teacher when he was 3, and I had a huge trauma that made me have to he before was like with me all the time, and so I went from that to like him being in like school from like 7 to 6 like every day. And so it was like I have to take advantage of this program, but like it was really hard because I was in this intense trauma coming out of a very abusive relationship, and like with a culminating like catastrophe. And so I had had my soul ripped out, and I didn't know how to be there with my child in a certain way. And so it really helped me. There was a school here that had like a secret program for women who were victims of intimate partner violence, and if they, so that they could go to appointments and things like that and try to get out of these controlling relationships, because most women who are abused are in these relationships where you don't have, like, you slowly lose all your access to any resources. You lose access to your friends. You lose access to your family. You lose out, and these aren't things that you can immediately pick back up, because there's a lot of karma that's developed like in those relationships. And I mean, and likewise, those people have developed karma too from like ignoring what was happening to you. So you, so I encounter Brooke, and it feels like when I drop my son off in his room for the first day, and I encounter Brooke, or it was actually like a month into school. And so it's like the first time that I've actually spoken to Brooke, because she's usually out, like right outside playing out in the sand and stuff with the kids. So she's like clearly and she's kind of the young fun teacher, but like clearly she's like really playing with the kids and stuff. And so this is the first time I talked to Brooke, and it was like this an instant like soul recognition. And I didn't know anything about vibration, any of this stuff when I met Brooke. Like I didn't know what a chakra was. I did not know I was identified as like an atheist, and in a lot of ways I can identify as anything, and so I still do, because I think my perspective brings that to the table, and like harmonizes the I can harmonize like the perspectives of religion and stuff. So I meet Brooke, and it was like this instant soul recognition, and the just huge relief, because it was like, oh my gosh, this is Hank's favorite teacher, like, and it felt like she was this angel to me. It was like this, like thank you for giving me this that helped. Like I had manifested, basically, because I was doing this amplitude thing, I got up here to where I was able to start manifesting people from my soul group that were sort of in similar levels of consciousness to me. And so because you're magnetized once you're in the same kind of range as each other. And so it's like the field conspires to bring you your soulmates and like your twin flame if you have one. And that would be something that your soul chooses to manifest. And you could choose that if you wanted to. If it sounds like something you'd probably want, then you have one. If that sounds really lame and you prefer the type of connection to the quantum where you live a very ascetic lifestyle and like you're just in touch with nature and live off the grid, and you stop relating to other people and you just kind of exist and meditate as part of the earth, like you keep that kind of connection to God if that's what you love and prefer. And there are a lot of people who, like in Buddhism, like talking about, giving up, like Zen Buddhism, giving up all attachments and things like that to be able to reach God. And that's a way to do it, but it's like a very, very difficult way once we have developed such a 3D world that's so interesting. Like it's like all of a sudden our soul's like, it just got interesting. Like stop doing it that way. There are easier ways to increase your vibration. You might have a trauma happen to you, and guess what? You probably have, but it might not have shot you up higher, because that's part of the nature of trauma, is that it's all like karma that's circulating around, and you end up getting into these traumatic situations when it's like your vibration hits that low level of amplitude, and it's around the same key signature as you, but just an octave lower. So if you have your amplitude drop down here in a trauma, or if you're very low vibration when you're little, because of trauma, you might encounter this person who is just, their soul signature is at that level. And those people are what we call narcissists. These are like reptilians. They operate from a lower level of the brain and have less consciousness than the rest of us, but they are still holographically similar to us. And they are able to, they just exist in a world not even knowing what love is. So they know how to manifest and get stuff done because they don't really suffer that much, because they don't really have, their worlds are devoid of the ability to experience love. So, and I'm talking, this is a very low level. And it's a thing that when you're high vibrational, you attract people who seem to harmonize your energy, especially when you go down and pick them up and get magnetized right here, and you meet somebody low vibrational. And this is when you get back into an abusive relationship, is like you have this trauma of like, okay, you have a house fire and have to run away from your husband. And so you're shot up here in consciousness to like, your soul's like, finally an opportunity to handle this, but it's like this major trauma. When that happens, you can, even if you leave this scenario and you leave your husband, when you drop back down, it is you're very vulnerable to getting entangled with another person with a similar key signature as your husband in that case. You are susceptible to getting magnetized down here because those people can tell that your key signature is higher than them, and they know that they can use your energy to manifest that, because your energy, the higher your vibration, the more you're able to manifest. And so people down here who catch one of us when we dip down because of a trauma, magnetize to us, and then try to turn your vibration into something that's way down here, try to steal your level of consciousness, basically, and incorporate you into their lower vibrational soul so that their consciousness keeps growing. It's like, or their field keeps growing. But guess what? It's not. Their key signature isn't based on a loving level of like a core soul being of like love. It's not based on, it's like a lower vibrational person, because we have to have all these beings in our reality who get eliminated. Like there are a lot of people who it's like, nope, get rid of that person, because remember, you're creating your reality, and these like terrible, child abusers and people like that, like you're gonna be like in your new earth, like of course those people are just, and they're not gonna like be, I don't know, it's gonna happen kind of in this natural way, but way more accelerated, and you're not gonna have to hear about all of it. It's just like they sort of disappear from your awareness. Like even the idea that someone would do that to, like the concept of abuse is going to disappear from your awareness. If you've ever seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, from like the early 2000s, this is like what Kate Winslet and is it Jim Carrey? I can't remember. Yeah, let's say that. But whoever, it's this couple, and they are able to do these type of treatments. I can't remember what happens in movies except like whether I liked it or not. But but this has come back to me. It's like, oh my gosh, as you raise in consciousness, it's like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, to where you're able to start shaving off these very, very low vibrations, meaning that those parts of your world are going to disappear. The places where there is like fundamental poverty, like that stuff is going to be transformed into something that you as a soul group, it's like a combination of elements that's going to grow up, that you manifest because of the combination of all these different vibrational fields that all of you have interacted with. Like remember, I was talking about like a type of rock that you love, that's going to be in your new earth if you continue to want that type of rock. And even to the point of all the individual rocks, like those are vibrational fields that you have created. Like the more you love something, or the more that you love someone, you increase their vibrational field, you increase their level of consciousness, and you are manifesting them to be made real, them to be incarnate and have access to your 3D, to your God Self's 3D world, that has been realm that has been created. And so it's going to feel like in the 3D realm you're still going to have time, but it's not the same. It's not going to function in the same way. And we have cycles as we go, because we've created this universe. It's not from, it's basically from scratch. So all of the stuff that we have is part of what we have manifested. So this is where it's like we have these manifestations that are appearing, like people who, like large groups of people who talk very seriously about Pleiadians and different star races and star beings and all these different kind of like, and the idea of like mermaid, people have had like sightings of mermaids recently, like things like that used to be that are still in our collective psyche, like anything that used to exist in any version of Earth and this universe, any of the versions, is going to be able to exist here, because your collective consciousness is going to like gain access to anything that it wants to within this 3D realm. So you're going to be able to explore and find new things, because it's like I will be able to go to Brooke's neighborhood because, or, you know, have access to that kind of framework and culture that she has, because I have loved Brooke. So anything that Brooke has loved is going to be part of our relationship and our universal, the universe that we create together. So when you encounter somebody who is in your soul group, this is also like the same function as like encountering a narcissist and getting pulled down to these lower levels and held down. So you have a lot of potential energy when you're down there and your soul level is actually up here. So if you can break out of this wave at the vulnerable point in the wave, you can release yourself and launch out of that. If you can find like a moment of like, I think I'm done with this, and then if you can ride that wave and continue taking that energy into like raising your consciousness, then you can raise your amplitude yourself, and get out of those lower level. Since your key signature is supposed to be up here, you get out, you can pull yourself out of those scenarios. But sometimes these people are able to completely suck us dry of our energy, and that's where we've had to keep reincarnating over and over again, which we won't have to do anymore. And we won't have to age anymore either, unless and we will all kind of harmonize around like the age of 33, because that's like the average. I mean, everyone's probably going to be around that age, because people are going to be able to choose it, and everybody, but like people are going to choose to be kids too, and you're going to be able to flip back and forth and be whatever you want, because it's your universe, and you just have, it's like this framework, this system that you've created where your universe is going to be able to respond directly to what you love. And so when you encounter somebody in your soul group, so if this is people in your soul group are people who come in with a harmonic key signature that harmonizes with your vibration. So this would be like people who have you come in with a central frequency, but you have overtones. So, and you also play chords, like your body has different chakras and they generate different vibrations. So at this point in our complex, in the complex being, fragmented, fractaled being that is faceted, that we basically, essentially, if you think about it, we are always making a chord. And so when in our exact key signature that is what we came in with, that is when we are most in harmony with the Schumann resonance, which is like the chords of the earth. So there are these because of the level of because of the note, our earth has a heartbeat, and it actually vibrates at a certain note. And so when you're harmonizing with the chord that the earth plays, when you've worked through your karma and you've evened out and you're exactly at the key signature and time signature that corresponds to what your soul is meant to be, like the ideal version of your soul, then you start, and there's like there's a threshold just before that where you start finding people who are very, very similar harmonic frequencies to yours, but you still might have a little bit of karma to do. So this is like to be able to really come together with your soulmates. Like it's the same thing as like coming together with a twin flame, so which I'll get to in a second, but because they're just another version of a soulmate, your soul group, or another vibrational being manifested in your reality that has a vibration that is either harmonically, like intensely intricately harmonically compatible with yours, and those are your soul group, those are the complementary energies to New Earth, is when it, like, everybody plays a chord together, and all the consciousness of the earth, like trees have a certain vibration, like everything comes together and it all is going to be like beautiful. That's like where the choirs of angels, like beautiful music, that we come into this complete harmony with every single aspect. So this doesn't have to be like watch the news and be like, no, this is never going to happen. Like, stop watching the news. The way that you bring everything into harmony is to expansively love everything that you've ever loved, and be in a state of perfect high vibrational, like quantum level consciousness at the instant, at the 3D moment where you sorry, there was a bird. What was I just saying? Dang. Okay, so when you encounter, I'll just go to this, and it'll come back. So when you encounter somebody in your soul group, that is when you come to you have harmonized your key signature back to the harmonies of your original nature vibration, God nature vibration, your Christ consciousness, the vibration that your unique soul plays when you're in Christ consciousness level, which is above that speed of light. You encounter somebody who plays a similar chord to yours, but it might be that their instrument just isn't tuned exactly right. And so it's like you're trying to play with them, and it's like, and that is where you actually have these push and pull relationships with even your soul family. So this doesn't just happen with a twin, this happens with your soul family too. So I don't know if y'all have had this, but it's like people who I know to be like in my soul family who have had that same kind of recognition as Brooke. And there will be false people. So I've met people and been like, oh my God, this must be, like, what is this? It must be somebody from my soul family. And it's not. It's like, you've become magnetized to somebody who's like very low vibration, but it's one of those situations. But so when you encounter somebody who has a similar key signature to yours, a harmonically compatible key signature, you basically you tune, because you're so close, your instruments tune each other, and you have to have this push and pull, like, away from me. There's these like fluctuations where your waves aren't quite matching just right. And so this is where I have people in my soul family that I don't interact with very often, and it's sort of like this, like it's like this, I like have intense love for these people, like more intense, like, and it's uncanny, like how you immediately have this intense like love, and you can see in their eyes, it's like your vibrational level in your eyes, because that's where the highest vibration is in your body. Your vibration in your eyes, you can tell because you look straight into each other and you recognize that soul signature. And so your fields immediately entangle with each other and start tuning with each other. It's like, oh, here we can make harmony. We're meant to make harmony. But you're gonna get, it's like there's only so long that you can hang out with somebody if their instrument isn't tuned like in a compatible way to you. Like if it's playing something like an atonal kind of harmony to you, all of a sudden, if it's in a frequency where their amplitude is pretty high and they're in the low part of that amplitude, meaning their consciousness has dipped down, you might be over here and not even on the same timeline. Because remember, wavelength is about timeline. You can have a high amplitude and a very low wavelength where you're on a very slow, you're in a very slow perspective of your incarnation. And so when you meet somebody in your soul family, you immediately start harmonizing, and you push and pull away from each other, because at different times in your tuning, you're going to have you're going to be like, it's like practicing with like a choir or whatever. So you go to choir and you start, it's like, here we come together and we recognize each other and we want to do the same thing. Like we're sort of all like a group, and we harmonize around the idea of like being in this particular choir together. And so then we start learning music, and it's like at the beginning, like it's like there is this adjustment period where everybody is first, like, you know, some pieces you don't really like that much before you practice them a while. It's like and some people love stuff like that. But then you start singing it, and you get better at it and you like it more. So that like raises your level of consciousness with the choir, because you do it as a group. It's like a collective where you all enter this state of consciousness, because singing is very high vibrational. You enter the same sphere of consciousness as each other and come together, and you practice, but you take breaks. You have to take breaks because you individually need to go back home and tune. I mean, you know, it takes a while to get a piano tuned, and you might need to, you know, make all these little micro adjustments, like learning the music better and tuning your instrument better and better as the choir gets better and better about like singing in the correct, the most ideal version of whatever the piece of music is. So this is like coming in contact with your soul family, and there might be this push and pull where it's like, okay, I haven't seen this person in a long time, and they're sort of, and like my friend Brooke and I have this thing where it's like each of us is like, sorry, I haven't seen you, I've just been really low vibe, I guess. And it's like we can tell, like we've noticed the pattern of like when I feel like crap, Brooke is usually having like a high in her life, and vice versa. And sometimes like when we get to hang out, it has to be this perfect mix of factors to where we can harmonically interact with each other for a period of time before we have to like go back and like calibrate by yourself for a while, which you have to do. That's your soul work, your own shadow work. Because my karma is different from Brooke's, and that will always be the case. It's just, you know, slightly different. The way it appears in 3D is very different from soul signatures to soul, from soul to soul. So that is how so you basically like harmonize with everyone and everything that you've ever encountered in a high vibration, and or seen, and you mutually create this earth. So a twin flame is, so for every single charge that is created, every time your soul has an incarnation, it creates another charge, and you are that charge, your electrical charge. And this is why they talk about like at conception, the heartbeat is like an energetic pulse. And so if you see that, when you see that, so, and there's like an original point, a big bang for that soul, where there's a singularity, and the womb is able to the womb space creates a new soul, and it creates an incarnation of the new soul, and there's a new key signature. There's a new being operating at like this confluence of like karma based on a lot of different things. So your soul, and that's why they say souls choose to come in, because it's like who you are is exactly the karma that you need to be able to work out. And it can take like lots of lifetimes, and that might be the pace that your soul wants to go, or it can take like not as many lifetimes, depending on some stuff. So for every charge that is created, okay, I keep scooting further and further off my yoga mat because my dog's, stop it, I love you, but hang on, like, give me, okay, so a twin flame, I think it's not going to be that much. So a twin flame is somebody who has, it's your exact equal and opposite It's an exact equal and opposite charge from you. So there is like the right side up you and there's the upside down you, and you are completely complementary with each other. This is like the yin yang symbol where they're completely, where it's equal and opposite, because black is the complete like our perception of opaque black is the complete opposite from the color of light that is complete white. And then light is actually like there's way more frequencies of light. So black is in fact like a color, and it's equal and opposite to white. It's like an octave lower than white, or like some proportion like that, like, because it all has to do, as above so below, it all has to do with harmonizing frequencies, and everything is a charge. So if you just think of that as yeah, so for every charge that is created, this is like quantum physics. For every charge that is created in the universe, new charges are created as vibration is raised and fields get so large that they slough off a new high vibrational version of itself, a newer high vibrational version of itself. Just like you move along on the periodic table, and hydrogen originally is, you know, one nucleus, one proton, and one electron, and then it vibrates long enough that it shoots off another version of itself, which is just helium. So in that universe, you get hydrogen and helium, and there's nothing else. And so kick that process over, and it goes according to the periods, and then the groups, or the periods are our dimensions, and then the groups are, every time you get to go down a row, you hop up a dimension, your consciousness hops up a dimension. But, and every time you hop from group to group, you are going from shell to shell of electrons. So I think this is like valence electrons, but that's the one that I'm like, it's like sort of basic-ish, and I'm not compared to everything that I'm talking about. And okay, so when you encounter somebody, so there is necessarily, this charge exists somewhere in your universe, and it always has. Every single time you incarnate, there's an equal and opposite charge that's created. It's like the upside down you and the right side up you. And there's no way, until y'all have both done your karma, your contrast is too high, and there's too much suffering in both of your worlds for you to be able to ever magnetize to each other. So this is why most people have not, your final if you have a twin, your final incarnation is the one where you come together with that equal and opposite charge, and that's when you get to create a whole new singularity for your consciousness, to where you can flit around from universe to universe, space to space at will. As much as you can go from 3D to 5D, you can flit from a 3D version of Earth to one where everybody flies, and that's more of a like dreams, like more of a dream state. Like you might want to be able to dream, you might want to be able to go to sleep and have interesting dreams. When you encounter your twin, they have the same exact soul signature as you, right? And so it's same as like meeting a soulmate, except for this is the exact equal and opposite charge to you. And because you've worked through enough karma, because the organism of Earth and your incarnation has worked through enough karma, you are able to access this level of consciousness where you eliminate the separation between the two, and you bust through and create this mutual, this is where it's like twins coming together. Twins, how they share the same electromagnetic field. And so the twins, depending on who's up and who's down, when you encounter each other, that's when you wake up. That's when both twins wake up. It's enough of a spark to come into contact with somebody who is exactly your soul signature, because you are magnetized already at a very high level. And then when the two of you come together, it's like lightning. Like if you've had this experience, it's just like, it's like lightning. It feels like that, and it feels like electricity when you brush against them. And just in a non-sexualized contact, it's like overwhelming almost. I mean, it is when you first come into contact with them and you have not harmonized exactly, because like somebody in your soul signature, you're going to be because of your lifetime and your experiences, you're going to be on slightly different timelines. You're going to be at different frequencies, different amplitude from each other. But since you have magnetized to each other, it's like two magnets that come together. And before they can come together, the energy that brought you together, it's like one magnet is stronger than the other because it has a higher amplitude and it's up at a higher level of consciousness than the other. That magnet, which is usually the divine feminine iterate charge, so that this magnet that's stronger has a higher amplitude of its like of the electrical circuit that runs in the dipole that is a magnet. This one's stronger than this one. This one has a bigger field because of the way that they've done this life. But you're going to harmonize with each other because you find each other, and then it's like that you're polarized in a way that's not complementary. But this magnet is going to, as it gets closer and closer and approaches and harmonizes more and more with itself, this is where they both approach the singularity with each other, and the bigger magnet is going to move to it faster than the little one, or the one that's doesn't have as strong of an amplitude, as big of a field. And so this magnet, picture it's like pushing on the other magnet at first, but then it slowly, if this one's stronger, flips the other magnet and they immediately come back together. So that's when the two of you actually are able to ascend. And this is if you've chosen a twin flame journey, quote unquote, which some people, I think a lot of people are going to choose it. And it's not dependent on gender or sex organs or anything like that, because gender is a construct there, but there is a basic energetic profile that can be seen in nature as like feminine versus masculine. Like different animals are able to switch even their sex organs back and forth, and it's like that is this idea of going from the feminine to the masculine to compensate for the different system, for the family system or this communal system of those, like fish who can do that, and I think in other animals, I just saw some cool ones that can do it. So when you come together with your twin flame, you're so magnetized with each other that it's not, but you have to find the same timelines. There's the only way to ascend is to magnetize together, is to hit that time. Like you're both going to once you hit that singularity of your soul signature, each of you, that is when you can't ever, this is a magnet that does not die because it's not an earth magnet. It's the magnet that is the magnetized field. This is field theory, the magnetized field, which is the quantum. So you hit the singularity and then both of you hit the quantum, and you two have manifested the biggest parts of your world that give it the most contrast, that give it the most beauty, because contrast is what creates beauty. Contrast in color, contrast in sound. These concepts are only experienced within the 3D. Like you only experience like the beauty of the tangible world, or the beauty of the feeling of running, or seeing a deer in the woods, things like that are just this beautiful contrast of like that enables you to experience different things. You have to have this contrast of energy for the quantum to be able to manifest, and that's like the way that it's like the quantum is constantly folding and enfolding this magnetically, these realities, and trying to come to the quantum, the consciousness, the field of consciousness, which is everything above, which overlays all the dimensions, but it's so dense in the 3D that it's hard to access it. And so reason that there are so many people who are talking about this now, and why the Aztecs and the Mayans talked about 2012, it's all in the math of the different, of the electrons and the protons. It's all in the same math. You can get to the same, once you understand that the quantum field is like a hologram, and each life is going to be a different iteration from the next. That is where what was I going to say? Got something else in my head. Well, this is where, first of all, this is where the idea of Lemuria comes from, and Atlantis. These either huge events, like Atlantis is like the flood, the huge events that destroy, where there's like this beautiful heaven on earth, and then but it's not exactly, it doesn't do karma well enough, and it hasn't accumulated enough. So there are these different memories of different lifetimes of the earth itself. It's like the earth reincarnates itself every so often, and when it hits this level of like high vibration, when the earth's amplitude goes up in its vibration, the organism of the earth, that is when the earth hits a singularity, and it's very high vibrational, which means that it's very hot. That means it gets really hot as it hits this high vibrational point, and it raises in its temperature over time because of the way of that wave. That's how consciousness accelerates, increases. And so when this happens, that's when there's the great ascension, when there's a spark of the earth being able to come together with its equal but opposite charge. That's the dark, where there's like, I think that this is what people who talk about hollow earth are talking about. It's like a way of thinking about, there's like a shadow earth and a new earth, and they're coming together like a black earth, and it's just black because there's no way for us to perceive it. It's another hologram that's like, one is your twin's universe and one is your universe, and they are coming together and overlaying with this beautiful 3D contrast, such that your soul is going to be able to always triangulate, which is the Trinity. Your soul's up here, and because there are two of you who share the same exact soul signature, you are able to have this constant connection with the quantum, but also the access to being able to be one incarnation, as each of you is one being and one being, but one access to the quantum, and you share your consciousness with that person. And this is where you have twin telepathy, and telepathy, you're going to have telepathy with soulmates and things like that. And this is like, not in a bad way. Like these are only things that come online once you're at a high enough vibrational level, like once you're vibrating at a level of love, that's when you get to manifest stuff that people have abused in the past. Like there's not a way for us to have telepathy now. You picture what that would be, and it'd just be it'd be terrible if you could hear what other people are thinking all the time. And sometimes I think for empaths, that's like a residual thing that we've been carrying, where you feel other people's feelings and things like that, but it's like actually keeping us in suffering. But we've been contributing to processing energy for the collective, and so therefore helping to raise the vibration of the earth. So the 144,000, I'll just quickly touch on that because it relates to twin flames. And so every ascended person or twin set, or soul group set, like I feel like it probably, but I'm going to say twin set and an individual because that's like the easiest thing to think about, is a point of light, is a consolidated point of light, point of energy, where all of your charges have come together, and that creates like a point of light in the electromagnetic field of our planet. It's like all the frequencies of the electromagnetic field have been trying to harmonize, which means it's trying to create this beautiful sacred geometry version of itself, which is like an octave higher than the one where we have been. And so we morph from, you know, the like 2D to 3D. We morph from a flat plane to the ability to like move all around, for example. And with the 4D, we're gonna, you know, you can move around in time space in a way. And then the 5D, you have complete control over your ability to move through time space, and there's no suffering, so you're not actually processing trauma in your dreams anymore, which is what the function of dreams is. So once we hit the threshold, and this happens like because of like all these reincarnations, it like doubles, and it you know, in a Fibonacci or, you know, process, like Fibonacci is like the numbers of like the like proportion of the karma that's developed. So that increases in like that way, in more of a linear way, and different dimensions are either exponential or logarithmic, and then you're above the speed of light with those kind of that kind of math, or that kind of functionality of our cells. Because this means like you can, you know, electrons can be in two places at once, depending on, and an electron can be, so I'm trying to note that, that I want to come back to that. So the 144,000, these are all those points of light that have been created. Once everybody has recognized and consolidated enough consciousness to where there are these 144,000 consolidated points, like nodes in the electromagnetic grid of our planet, once we have hit that threshold, then that is when the Earth is able to ascend, is able to go from a very, like, go from this level of a field, and it unites with that dark one, and then there's this infinity of energy that is circulated between those, which means that the 3D, the karma, the calcification of the vibration within this universe, which is the karma, which is the 3D suffering consciousness, only accumulates at like a Fibonacci level. So it's like once you reach a certain threshold, there's a perfect like 1 to 5 harmony of these, and that is when the Earth's magnetic field is strong enough that you don't hit one of those cataclysms anymore. There wasn't not going to be a flood. There's not going to be a mud flood. Mud flood is a collective memory of what happens when the Earth has gotten really hot, because you vibrate matter, and it not only liquidizes. If you get something hotter and hotter, matter will eventually liquidize, but it'll turn into a gas, and then it transforms it into complete plasma, which is only like an electrical, that's what the quantum is made of. Plasma is like the fundamental quilt of our reality. It is the tapestry of everything is plasma, is these electrical or streams of flowing energy in within the 3D, and or accessible to us in the 3D. It's like the quantum field is the plasma, which just means that you vibrated matter hot enough so that it, like, for lack of a better word, it like liquidizes from 3D matter into like quantum plasma. And so we've gone through times where we've completely disappeared. Like we have an infinity of like iterations of the Earth, of this reality. And so we've had ones where the Earth has completely blinked and like not there anymore. We've had cataclysms where it's like there are many people who survived this great flood or the ice age, things like that we still have in the collective memory of our species, that actually represent these enormous catastrophes, like to where we have reached a high vibrational level, but we're not able to maintain it, and it like flashes to where it's like you reach Lemuria, but it's not, the field isn't big enough, and the karma snaps back in the field, and then it does this over and over again. It pulses, and that charge pulses and like expands the field over time, so that that is where you see the 144,000. That's where that's coming from, and the numbers are significant. I won't go into that, but they are significant. So this is all. I just want to, like, one thing that I might have mentioned before, could have mentioned before, is this idea of the double slit experiment, which showed that a light can be both a particle or a wave. It can be either or, depending on whether we observe it. So this is where light, your pure soul, can create like 3D incarnate matter energy by observing it. You particleize the quantum field, which turns it into the earth. So every time you observe something in a state of love, you are collapsing the waveform of that energetic field and bringing it into your field. And so the vibration of that is then consolidated with your vibration. And so every time when you encounter somebody in your soul group, or you come together with your twin, you encounter your twin, you see each other and you collapse each other's waveform. And so that's when the waves are trying to come together, and it's inevitable that you ascend with each other if you've had this twin flame awakening. If you've had the awakening, it's inevitable. It's like, might take a really long time, but your worlds will come into harmony with each other. And then you can both ascend, but this is where it's like the biggest activation that you have had. It's like the biggest activation that you have had the opportunity to, like activation of this whole other level of the game that you've been playing, to suddenly, like Avatar, where you can suddenly go in to the game, and I mean, similar like that, you can go into the game and play it and come out, and but it's like the two of you activate and particleize each other, collapse each other's waveform in each other's reality, which is why it's sort of like, it's like you're imprinting on each other, and your fields gradually come together and harmonize with each other, and it's like the most beautiful harmony that could possibly be, because it's these complementary, you have the same level of consciousness, and so theirs is like this, and it's equal and opposite. So when the two of you play, it's like this, play your chords, it's just like this beautiful choirs of angels that you couldn't conceive of. Like when these harmonies come together, you're incorporating this whole other shadow world that you have no idea, there's no way of you conceiving it. You can't sense it, you can't perceive it. It's not accessible to you until you have this awakening. And a lot of times it's one twin who has it first, like the first one twin hits that, I mean, one twin necessarily hits the point of like higher consciousness, their amplitude jumps up, and then they might be the one who drops down and activates the twin if they're very low vibe, and that's where it can take a long time for both of you to harmonize out with each other, because one of you springing around, you're on completely different timelines. It's like, seems like it's impossible to run into each other, but you'll have these times where you like see them, or there's a bunch of different synchronicities that make you think of them, or like are just exact synchronicities, or that it's like the universe showing you back your soul signature in the world. It's like your world is then painted, and you see in this way that you see your twin everywhere you look, because the two of you have both manufactured have both created this reality together, and you share each other's reality. And so there's going to be stuff that you see that's like, oh my God, that's exactly twin. That's exactly my twin. Like, it's like, I know that that's God showing me, but in another version, an equal but opposite version of me. And that's when your synchronicities just get crazy, because once you've manifested each other and collapsed each other's waveforms, it's like you have particleized. Remember, you've particleized their universe just like they've particleized yours, but they've come together. So the things that they're particleized in their world are then all of a sudden manifested in your world. And so that's where you get these clues and these things that feel like, am I crazy? Am I seeing him talk to me? Like, what is it? So it's like your soul starts showing you the vibrational field of the other person, because you're already in union and you're just creating your light body together. And yeah, so I mean, I don't know what to say. It's like I've said a lot. It's just like, it's all about you. You just raise your vibration, and you're the one who creates your own ascension. You're the only one who creates it. Because as above, so below. So whatever happens to the universe, whatever happens to the earth, whatever happens to all the beings in your universe is going to be, it's all aligned with you. So you will, it's within yourself. This is what like loving yourself is truly about. And I think it's a little like, loving yourself is doing things that you really love, following your third eye, your intuition, your high vibration, following the messages from the quantum that tell you what it is that's really right for you. When you get an opening up in your heart, when you think about a certain person, or when you don't get a pit in your stomach, that's how you recognize the narcissist versus the your soul family, is that you stick around just long enough until you realize you're getting a pit in your stomach about them. Like, they do something that like gives you this, like, you're all of a sudden like, you feel like this almost panic, like, what did they just say? Or like, and you get this pit in your stomach, like your intuition all of a sudden goes crazy, and you're suddenly like, oh my God, this person, I've got to get out, I've got to get out of the house. It's like one of those feelings of like, I don't know who this person really is. Like, they are manipulative, or like clearly doing it on purpose, or whatever it is, taking advantage of me, taking advantage of my energy, and I'm not getting anything. It's just obvious. Like, you raise your vibration, and I mean, it's just about, like eliminating people from your sense of consciousness who are low vibration. The more you can like cut yourself off from relationships that give you sort of a pit in your stomach, where there's a lot of karma, and you are just like, that's just lower vibrational person, I need to just cut them out. The higher and higher your consciousness gets, you're going to be way more discerning about who you do and do not interact with, who you talk to, who you text back, who you see, where you go, what you do. You are so discerning about, like, you have to be discerning about the things that are in alignment with you, and always following that path. And that's how you get in your flow. That's how you get in the Tao. In Taoism, this is called in the Tao. Once you're in that flow, you are on the wave, riding up to your ascension up here. You are raising your vibration, and oxygenate your blood. That's what Kundalini yoga does. That's the quickest way to, don't wait for a trauma. I mean, don't take years to do it if you don't want to, if you don't want to waste or if you don't want to take that many, there's no such thing as wasting. If you don't want to, or if it would feel like waste to like spend all this time like doing it really, really slowly, when you could just sit down and very quickly, in short order, do some particular breathing exercises that would, and changes in your life that would bring you that opportunity to get on that ascension wave and start magnetizing yourself to the higher vibrational aspects of your world and eliminating the feelings of suffering. This is like where you're working on karma and you're eliminating your triggers. You're like making peace with these things that you didn't realize that you even needed to make peace with. It's all about like reaching this point of like peace and complete harmony with your world, complete ecstatic, and then the ecstasy is the ecstatic union that happens when you ascend and you recognize and observe the reality that your soul has created. And it's like a masterpiece. Like, you are the ultimate creator. You are the game master in your own game. And no matter what, there's going to be a happy ending, whether it's this lifetime or another one. If you're watching this, you're ascending. Like, I mean, you already are if you're even magnetized to reptilians. If you've been magnetized to this type of content, like, you are on that wave. So enjoy it and just keep exposing yourself and clicking on things that don't give you like a slight pit in your stomach or slight sickness or like make you mad or resentful, or don't click on things that are remotely triggering. And this is where your discernment gets better and better, because you can start telling like these very, very subtle distinctions between what you should and should not click on, where you should and should not go, when you should and should not agree to do something with somebody, things like that. And when you come to complete perfect discernment, that's also when you come into union with your twin flame and with Gaia, and you create New Earth. So, Sat Nam. And I'll see y'all in New Earth. I can't wait.